If you're watching this, it means you're searching for something, maybe answers, maybe understanding, maybe confirmation that you're not alone in what you're feeling. There won't be anything flashy to watch here. Just listen to me. A year ago, I was sitting exactly where you're probably sitting right now, in darkness, in silence, with a question that wouldn't leave me alone. What's the point of all this? I had a plan. Everything was ready. I knew when. I knew how. I even knew what I'd write in my final message. And then I stopped. Not because everything suddenly became beautiful, not because someone came and saved me. I stopped because I understood something no one had ever told me before, something I want to tell you today. Let me tell you who I was a year ago. I was a man who, in his own mind, was a failure, a person who meant nothing, someone who had no one he could call a real friend. I had no place I could call home, just four walls where I slept and woke up with the same weight on my chest. I had no mentor to keep me in check and push me toward better. I didn't even have myself. I was essentially nobody. I know how that sounds. Dramatic, pathetic, playing the victim. I heard all of that in my own head before anyone else could say it out loud. But that was my truth. And if you feel the same, you know this isn't playing. It's just the state you exist in, like a disease that doesn't hurt physically, but eats you from the inside. Constant failures, constant disappointments. I tried. God knows I tried. How many times did I start over? I lost count. Every time I was full of passion, enthusiasm. This time it'll work. This time will be different. And every time it turned out the same. Failure. And when occasionally, just once in a while, something seemed to finally work out, it ended spectacularly, as if fate wanted to remind me, see, I told you, not for you. And each time I came back lower, even more convinced of my beliefs about myself. I'm worthless. I'll never succeed. Better not even try. People say, you have to believe in yourself. But how do you believe in yourself when every piece of evidence you have says otherwise? How do you get up when falling has become your normal state? Nobody knew. The people closest to me, family, work colleagues, didn't even know half of what I was going through. They didn't know about this channel, about these attempts to understand myself, about the hours spent searching for answers in psychology, philosophy, anywhere. I thought it would help, that I'd be able to understand myself, understand the problems that accompanied me since childhood, because they shaped me. They built that voice in my head telling me I'd never be enough. I read about childhood traumas, complexes, shadows, about how parents unconsciously pass on their wounds. I understood it all intellectually, but it changed nothing. Because knowledge isn't transformation. Understanding isn't healing, and I was tired. Tired of financial problems that kept me awake. Tired of health problems I ignored because others have it worse. Tired of mental problems I fought alone because a strong man handles it, and I stopped handling it. I was sitting one evening. It was an ordinary Tuesday, nothing special, and I thought if I left right now, I'd finally be free. Free from constant stress, from nerves, from hunger, and I'm not talking about physical hunger, though that happened too, but that soul hunger that's never satisfied, from lack of prospects, from the eternal vision of failure, from eternal depression, from the eternal mask. I couldn't even remember what it felt like to be myself, what it felt like to genuinely smile, to enjoy life. I was happy when I had something to eat, and you? Hope you never have to experience that. And in that moment, I thought, freedom, my freedom. But then another thought came, quieter, almost inaudible. Your freedom will be their tragedy. That thought stopped me, not because I felt guilty, not because I suddenly saw the light, but because I understood that something fundamental. This wasn't my pain. This was someone else's pain I was carrying as my own. Let me explain. My entire life I learned that. My worth depends on what I achieve. If I'm not productive, I don't deserve love. If I fail, I'm nobody. A strong man handles things alone, Asking for help is weakness. My needs are less important than others' needs. Where did this come from? From the home I grew up in, from a mother who was exhausted herself and had no time for me, from a father who wasn't there physically or emotionally, it doesn't matter, from school where I was invisible, from my first job where they exploited my work ethic, from my first relationship where my feelings were excessive, from thousands of small moments where I got the message, you're not enough. And if you are, it's only when you give more than you have. And for years, I built my life on that foundation. I worked harder, did more, gave everything, because maybe then someone would finally see my worth. But the more I gave, the more exhausted I became. The harder I tried, the bigger the failure when something didn't work out. Because I wasn't building my life. I was fulfilling someone else's expectations. Expectations of parents I could never satisfy. Expectations of society that says a man should. Expectations of people who wanted everything from me while giving nothing in return. Expectations of employers who paid pennies while demanding dedication. I was living someone else's life. And that's why I wanted to leave. Because how can you live a life that isn't yours? But in that moment, sitting in that darkness, I understood, if I leave, I'll never know what my life looks like. This might sound banal. Sure, live for yourself. How many times have you heard that? 1,000,000, and it never meant anything, right? But this time, somehow, it landed. I'd never lived for myself. Never knew who I really was under all those expectations, masks, roles. Who would I be if I stopped trying to be good enough? Who would I be if I stopped proving my worth? Who would I be if no one was judging me? I had no idea. And I thought, if I'm going to leave anyway, at least I want to know before I go. I want to at least live for a moment the life that belongs to me. I won't promise you it was a moment of enlightenment. Not that suddenly a fire of hope ignited. It was just a small voice. What if? What if you try again, but differently? What if you stop living for others and start living for yourself? What if what you think about yourself isn't true at all? That was the first step. I won't tell you everything miraculously worked out, because that would be a lie. A year later, I still have financial problems. I still haven't achieved success in the world's eyes. There are still days when I wake up with the same weight, but one thing changed. I stopped measuring my worth by external achievements. Sounds simple, but it's the hardest thing I've ever done, because my entire life I learned that I am what I achieve. I am what I earn. I am how others see me. And now I had to learn something completely opposite. I am because I am. And that's enough. Not because I work, not because I give, not because I fulfill someone's expectations. I simply am. And that's enough. I didn't believe it for a long time. I don't fully believe it even now. But I started practicing. Small steps. I started with one thing. I stopped apologizing for my existence, for taking up space, for having needs, for not being perfect. I stopped saying sorry every time someone had to wait for me, when I needed help, when I couldn't do something. Sounds trivial, but try it. Notice how many times a day you apologize for existing. I stopped. Second step, I stopped comparing myself. Other people have homes, have careers, have families, have certainty, and me? I have a day when I manage to get up, and that has to be enough. I don't compete with anyone anymore. Don't play the game of who's better, because that game has no end. There'll always be someone better, richer, happier, more successful, more fulfilled. My fight isn't with others. My fight is with my own head. Third step, I allowed myself to fail. For years, every failure was proof of my worthlessness. Now, It's just information. I tried. It didn't work. What can I do differently? Or I tried. It didn't work. Maybe it just wasn't my path. Failure isn't a verdict. It's data. And slowly, very slowly, I started recovering the energy I'd wasted on hating myself for every mistake. Fourth step, I built boundaries. This was the hardest. Boundaries with people who took from me without giving. Boundaries with work that drained me completely. Boundaries with family who had expectations I couldn't meet. I said no, and the world didn't collapse. Some people left. Good. They weren't for me. Some doors closed. Good. They weren't my doors. And in that space I created by saying no, for the first time, there was room for yes. Yes to things I actually want. Yes to people who actually see me. Yes to a life that's mine. I know if you're watching this, you're probably in the place I was a year ago. I know you've heard 1,000 pieces of advice. Be positive. Believe in yourself. Everything will be fine. And I know none of them help, because when you're in the middle of that hell, those words are empty. So I won't tell you to be positive. I won't tell you everything will be fine. I'll tell you this: what you're feeling is real. Your pain is real. Your exhaustion is justified. You're not too weak. You're not overreacting. You're not creating problems for yourself. You're living in a world that demands you be everything for everyone and nothing for yourself. That tells you your worth depends on productivity. That punishes you for every moment of weakness. You're not broken. The system is broken, and here's the whole truth, even if the system is broken, you have to save yourself. No one's coming. No one will solve your problems. No one will give you the life you deserve. You have to take it. And I know that sounds unfair, because it is unfair. But the choice is simple. Either you wait for the world to change and die waiting, or you start changing your life, millimeter by millimeter, even though the world hasn't changed. I'm not saying it'll be easy. I'm saying it's possible. If you feel what I felt, if you're thinking about leaving, if it seems like the only way out, listen to me very carefully now. Before you make any decision, give yourself 30 days. 30 days where you try living differently, not for anyone else, only for yourself, just to check. If after 30 days you still feel the same, you can return to this place. But give yourself a chance to see if there's another way. Days 1 to 7. Stop apologizing for your existence. Every time you want to say sorry, stop. Ask, did I actually do something wrong, or am I just existing? If you're just existing, don't apologize. Identify one thing you're doing for others that's destroying you. Maybe it's work that drains you. Maybe it's a relationship where you only give. Maybe it's a family obligation dragging you down. You don't have to end it immediately. Just name it. This is destroying me. Say no to that one thing. Once. See what happens. See if the world collapses. It won't. Do something only for yourself. Something small. Something that serves no one else. Isn't productive. Doesn't earn money. Doesn't make you better. Just something that brings you joy, or at least doesn't cause pain. Maybe it's a walk. Maybe it's coffee and silence. Maybe it's an hour of reading. Maybe it's crying without rushing. Whatever it is, do it. And notice how you feel. But what if I can't make it 30 days? Then try 7 days. And if not 7, then 3. And if not 3, then 1 day. And if not 1 day, then the next hour. You don't need to see the whole road. You just need to see the next step. A year ago, I was in a place where I saw no way out. Today, I still don't have everything. I'm still fighting. There are still days when I don't know how to handle it all. But you know what changed? I stopped fighting against myself. I started fighting for myself. And that changes everything. If you're reading these words, if you made it this far, It means you're still searching. Some part of you still wants to live, even if it's a tiny, barely audible part. Hold on to that part. It will save you. Logic won't save you. Achievements won't save you. Willpower won't save you. That small, stubborn part that, despite everything, wants to see what tomorrow brings, that will save you. Trust it. And if you need a sign to stay, let this be it. Your life doesn't have to be great to be worth living. You don't have to achieve success. You don't have to make anyone happy. You don't have to prove your worth. You just have to be. And that's enough. Stay. Please, stay. Not for me, not for your family, not for a future you can't see. Stay to find out who you are when you stop being everything for everyone. Stay to give yourself a chance at a life that's yours because you deserve it, not because you've achieved something, not because you're good enough, but because you exist. And that's enough. If you need help, ask for it. If you need time, take it. If you need space, create it, but don't leave. The world might not notice your departure, but you'll never see who you could have become. And I believe that's worth seeing. Stay with me. Stay for yourself at least one more day.